It was the midnight of August 14, 1947. The tricolour was about to fly high for the first time in India. After nearly 200 years of British rule, India was finally free. But freedom came at a price, a steep, painful price. That same midnight, millions of Indians, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, were being forced to leave their homes, abandon their belongings, and cross borders drawn by people who had never walked these lands. Trains packed with refugees left stations, and some arrived full of corpses. This is not just the story of India's independence, this is the story of partition, the biggest migration in human history, and one of the greatest humanitarian tragedies the world has ever seen. But how did it happen? Was it really inevitable? And what does partition mean for India, even today? To understand partition, we must go back not just a few years, but to the 1857 revolt, also known as the First War of Indian Independence. This event deeply shocked the British Empire. After crushing the revolt, the British Crown took direct control of India from the East India Company in 1858. But from that moment on, their strategy was clear: divide Indians so they could never rise together again. They began manipulating religious, linguistic, and caste identities and codified them into laws and censuses. Religious identity, which was once fluid and local, became a political category. Fast forward to early 1900s, two major political parties emerged. First, the Indian National Congress (INC), which was mostly Hindu leaders advocating unity and independence. Second, the All India Muslim League, initially supportive of shared governance, but by the 1930s leaning toward Muslim autonomy. British policies like the 1909 Morley Minto reforms introduced separate electorates, meaning Muslims and Hindus would vote for different candidates. This officially split the Indian electorate along religious lines. Add to that the 1935 Government of India Act, which decentralized power to Indian provinces. It unintentionally created competition between Congress and the Muslim League, turning collaboration into rivalry. The early Indian freedom movements, led by figures like Dadabhai Naoroji, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Gandhi, Nehru, and Patel, pushed for a united India. Indian National Congress was seen as the representative of all Indians. But from the early 20th century, the All India Muslim League began asserting that Muslim interests were not safe in Hindu majority India. Even Jinnah, who later demanded Pakistan, was once a member of the Congress and a supporter of Hindu-Muslim unity. But British policies, rising communal tension, and political competition widened the rift. The idea of Pakistan. The idea of Pakistan didn't suddenly appear in 1947. It was formally proposed in 1940 in what we now call the Lahore Resolution by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. But here is something many of you don't know. The word Pakistan was coined in 1933 by a Cambridge student named Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. It was an acronym. P stands for Punjab, A Afghania, Northwest Frontier Province, K Kashmir, S Sindh, Tan Balochistan. It was a bold and imaginative concept. Jinnah didn't embrace it at first, but by the late 1930s he had become disillusioned with the Congress. He felt the Muslim voice was ignored in provincial government controlled by Congress. Muhammad Ali Jinnah began arguing that Hindus and Muslims were two nations with different cultures and religions and could not coexist in a single democratic India. The Congress disagreed. Leaders like Nehru and Gandhi firmly believed in a secular, inclusive India. Meanwhile, the British were watching. They had promised to grant India independence, but were reluctant to leave behind a strong, united country that could challenge their global influence. Tension escalated in 1946. Jinnah's call for direct action day led to a horrific riots in Calcutta, followed by a violence in Bihar, Punjab, and Noakhali. Communal mistrust had exploded. The India of partition, once seen and extreme, now began to feel like the only way to prevent civil war. In March 1947, the British sent Lord Mountbatten to India as the last viceroy, and his job was to transfer power quickly and peacefully before things got worse. But Mountbatten proposed a plan. India would be split into two countries, India and Pakistan, and the division would be based on religious majority in provinces, and the princely state could choose which country to join. India's leaders were reluctant but accepted, fearing that delaying the process would lead to further bloodshed. A British lawyer, Sir Cyril Radcliffe, who had never set foot in India, was appointed to draw the new borders. He had just 5 weeks, no proper maps, and no understanding of region. A man unfamiliar with India was told to divide Punjab, Bengal, Assam, and Kashmir, provinces that were deeply diverse and interwoven. And the result of that was chaos. He worked in secrecy, and when the lines were drawn, they split homes, villages, rivers, and even farms in half. August 15, 1947, India and Pakistan were born. But the Radcliffe line, the actual border, was only announced on August 17. That delay meant millions were moving blindly, unsure which side they would land on. And what followed was one of the darkest chapters in Indian history. Entire trains full of refugees were slaughtered on the way. Villages were burned, women were raped and abducted. Children watched as parents were killed. 15 million people were displaced. And between 5 lakh to 2 million people lost their lives. The state machinery had collapsed. There was no plan for humanitarian aid. And what makes it worse, that people who had lived peacefully for decades suddenly saw each other as enemies, manipulated by politics and fear. In Delhi, Amritsar, Lahore, and Karachi, homes, shops, temples, and mosques were destroyed. Refugees flooded the capital. Gandhi went on a hunger strike to stop the violence. And this wasn't just a partition, it was a trauma. What India faced after partition? The British left, but they left behind fire and ashes. India had to rehabilitate millions of refugees, rebuild Delhi and other cities flooded with migrants, form a new secular constitution, deal with Kashmir, where Pakistan invaded and a war broke out, integrate over 560 princely states, some of whom didn't want to join India. And Pakistan, on the other hand, born in two parts, West Pakistan, and now East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, faced administrative chaos. No proper government, no infrastructure, no currency of its own. Karachi became the temporary capital, but everything from military to currency to ambassadors had to be built from scratch. And the Kashmir became the biggest flashpoint. Its Hindu ruler signed to join India despite a Muslim majority, and sparking the first India-Pakistan war in 1947 to 48. That conflict led the seeds for more wars, and a conflict that continues till this day. And when we talk about the wars, we cannot forget the recent Pahalgam attack. Partition was not just a line on the map, it was a wound in the heart of India. And even today, families remain divided across borders. Survivors carry trauma in their memories. And India and Pakistan remain caught in cycles of tension, war, and mistrust. But we, the youth of India, must learn from this history. Hate can be manufactured, but so can peace. Political divisions often hurt the common people the most, and India, despite all this, chose unity, democracy, and secularism, and that's our strength. The partition of India wasn't just about freedom and division, it was about choices. And it's on us as the next generation to choose understanding over ignorance and harmony over hate. If you like this video, please press on the like button, share, and subscribe if this story moved you. See you next time.